Hello everyone, it's me Uncle John. Today I am going to read Magic Tree House, number 13, The Vacation Under the Volcano. Chapter 6, The End is Here. Jack threw open the door to the room of scrolls. He and Annie rushed in and went over to the shelves. Jack pulled out the piece of paper with the Latin title on it. De vi fortissimus in mundo. Okay, he said. We have to find a scroll with this title. They began frantically unrolling scrolls one by one. They were all handwritten in Latin. Here it is, said Annie. She held up a scroll. The words at the top matched the one on their paper. Yay, said Jack. I wish I could read Latin so we could find out what the story is. Don't think about it now, said Annie. Let's go. Annie handed the scroll to Jack, then started out of the room. Come on, she said. Bring it. I just want to check and see what the story is about, said Jack. He put the scroll in the leather bag. Then he flipped through the book on Roman times, looking for a picture of the ancient scroll. In the middle of the book, he found the picture of a volcano erupting over a town. Under the picture was written, for 800 years Mount Vesuvius was a peaceful mountain, rising above the town of Pompeii. Then at noon on August 24th, AD 79, it erupted into a deadly volcano. Oh no, whispered Jack. August 24th, AD 79, that's today. Oh man, what time is it? He looked around wildly. Annie, she was gone again. Annie, Jack grabbed the leather bag, then clutching the book, he tore out of the scroll room. Annie, he cried. What? Annie appeared at the door to the dining room. The volcano, stuttered Jack. What? Said Annie. It is coming a volcano at noon. Annie gasped. What time is it? Cried Jack. So that's what the soothsayer meant. Annie said, the end is near. What time is it? Jack asked again. He looked around the garden. He saw something near the mermaid fountain. A sundial, he said. That's how the Romans told time. Jack and Annie raced to the sundial. What time does it say? Said Annie. I don't know, said Jack. His hand shook as he turned the pages of the book. He stopped on a picture of a sundial. It showed examples of different time. Jack looked back and forth from the page to the real sundial in the garden. Here, he said, he had found the one that matched. Jack read the writing under the picture. The shadow on the sundial can hardly be seen at noon. Oh man, he whispered. He looked at Annie. The end isn't near. The end is here. Just then he heard a terrible blast. It was the loudest sound he had ever heard. Chapter 7, The Sky is Falling. The next thing Jack knew, he was lying on the stone patio. The patio stones were trembling. Rumbling sound came from the ground. Jack raised his head. Annie was on the ground too. You okay? Said Annie. Jack nodded. Everything was just shaking and crashing down around them. Pots, plants, the mermaid fountain, water from the golden goldfish pond sloshed onto the patio, and Jack and Annie. They both jumped up just as roof tiles began falling into the garden. We better get inside, said Jack. He grabbed his leather bag. Then he and Annie stumbled into the scroll library. Giant cracks split the stone floor as Jack and Annie ran to a window and looked out. Glowing rocks were bursting through the sky above Mount Vesuvius. The whole top of the mountain had blown off. What's happening? Said Annie. I'll check, said Jack. He pulled out the Roman book. He read aloud from the section about the volcano. When a volcano erupts, hot melted rock called magma is pushed to the surface of the earth. Once it gets outside the volcano, it's called lava. Lava, that's like burning mud, said Jack. It covers everything, cried Annie. Jack kept reading. There was no running lava from Mount Vesuvius. Magma from the volcano cooled so fast that it froze into small grayish white rocks called the pumice. Pumice rock is very light and has holes like a sponge. That doesn't sound too bad, said Annie. Wait, there's more, said Jack. He read on. A cloud of pumice, ash, and burning rock shot miles into the air. When it rained down on Pompeii, it completely buried the town. Oh man, said Jack. This is a major disaster. It's getting dark, said Annie. Jack looked out again. Thick black cloud was spreading over the earth like an umbrella. The sun vanished as the sky turned smoky gray. That must be the cloud of pumice and ash, said Jack. Just then the ground trembled again. Chunks of plaster from the ceiling fell on the scrolls. We have to get out of here, said Annie. They ran from the scroll library into the garden. Ash and pumice began to fall. We have to cover our heads, said Jack. They hurried from the garden into the dining room. Hey, look, pillows, said Annie. Let's put them on our heads. They hurried to the couches beside the table and each grabbed a pillow. Tie it around your head with your belt, said Jack. They both pulled off the belts from around their tunics. Then they tied on the pillows like giant hats. Chunk of ceiling crashed down near them. Let's get out of here, said Jack. They stepped over pieces of fallen roof tile and ran into the main hall. They pushed open the front door. A blast of heat and dust nearly knocked them over. And when they stepped outside, the pumice rained down onto their pillow head. Run, cried Annie. They ran from the vacation villa into the dark, burning street. Chapter 8. Nightmare at Noon. In the distance, fire burst from Mount Vesuvius. Burning rocks and fiery ash fell from the sky. The hot, dusty air smelled like rotten eggs as Jack and Annie rushed down the street. In the forum, everyone, shoppers, soldiers, gladiators, fruit sellers, was running in every direction. Stalls had collapsed, carts were sliding, Jack froze. He didn't know where to go. That way, shouted Annie. Jack followed her as they ran past the Temple of Jupiter. Its mighty columns had fallen, and its walls were crumbling. They ran past a public bath, just as its roof caved in. Which way now? Shouted Annie. The treehouse is in the olive grove, Jack said as they kept running. Olive Grove and the bridge are near the street with all those open shops, said Annie. Remember the bridge? Jack looked up at the erupting mountain, a red-hot cloud that billowed over it. Fires burned on its slope. Head in the direction of Mount Vesuvius, he said. It was behind us as we came into Pompeii. Right, cried Annie. So while others ran away from Mount Vesuvius, Jack and Annie ran toward it. On the street were the open shop. Baskets and broken jars rolled over the cracked stone. Jack and Annie ran past the bakery and the shoe shop. They ran past the butcher shop and barber shop. All the shops were empty. Their owners had fled. The closer they got to the volcano, the more the ground trembled. The darker and dustier it got. This is just like my nightmare, cried Annie. Jack choked on the rotten fumes. His eyes watered. Look, the olive grove, shouted Annie. Treehouse is just over there. Come on. Jack could hardly see, but he followed Annie. They left the street and went to the dried-up stream near the olive grove. Where's the bridge? Cried Annie. They looked around wildly. The bridge had vanished. Chapter 9. Save us. The bridge must have caved in, cried Annie. They stared at the dried-up stream. Pumice had piled up in huge drift like snow. We'll have to get through that stuff to get across, said Jack. He and Annie slid down the bank onto the piles of pumice. As they started to move across it, more and more fell. Jack tried to move through the millions of warm, grayish-white pebbles. But he was trapped. I'm stuck, cried Annie. Me too. Remember what Morgan said Annie. At the moment, Jack couldn't remember anything. He was too tired and dazed. In your darkest hour, only the ancient story can save you, cried Annie. Where is your bag? Jack lifted his bag into the air above the sea of pumice, and he grabbed it and pulled out the ancient scroll. She held it up to the dark sky. Save us, story, she shouted. Jack felt himself sink deeper and deeper into the pume. Suddenly he heard a deep voice say, Rise, son. Then someone lifted Jack up into the air. Great flash of fire lit the dusty darkness. In the red light, Jack saw the biggest, strongest man he had ever seen in his life. The man looked like a gladiator, but even bigger than the ones they had seen earlier. He held Jack with one hand, Annie with the other. He placed them both on the other bank of the stream. Run, the giant gladiator boomed before it's too late. Jack and Annie didn't stop to ask any question. Together they charged through the olive grove. They jumped over fallen branches. They leaped over great cracks in the earth. Finally, they came to the tree with the magic tree house. They grabbed the rope ladder and scrambled up to the tree house. What is the Pennsylvania book? Jack shouted. It was too blinded by ash and dust to find the book that always took them home. I've got it, cried Annie. I wish we could go there. They felt the treehouse start to spun faster and faster and faster. Then everything was still, absolutely, wonderfully, peacefully still. Chapter 10. A simple explanation. Jack didn't move. He had never been so tired in all his life. Breathe, said Annie. Jack gulped in cold, clean air. He opened his eye. He couldn't see a thing. Take off your glasses, said Annie. They are filthy. Jack took off his glasses. The first thing he saw was his backpack. White tunics and lace-up sandals were gone. So were their pillow hats and the leather bag. Jack let out a long, deep breath. As he cleaned his glasses on his shirt, a voice came from behind him. I'm very glad to see you safe and sound. Morgan Le Fay stood in the corner of the treehouse. She looked as lovely and mysterious as ever. Happy to be home, she asked. Jack nodded. The sound of the erupting volcano still echoed in his ear. It was pretty scary, he said in a hoarse voice. I know, but you were truly brave, said Morgan. You witnessed the famous event in history. Nowadays, scientists study the remains of Pompeii to find out more about Roman time. I feel bad for all those people, said Annie. Yes, said Morgan, but most of the people of Pompeii did escape. The city wasn't completely buried by ash until the next day. We were almost trapped, said Annie, but we asked the ancient story to save us. Then a huge gladiator helped us. Jack reached into his pack. He breathed a sigh of relief. The scroll was still there. He took it out. It was covered with dust and ashes. Here's the story, said Jack. He handed it to Morgan. I'm deeply grateful, she said softly. You risked everything to bring this to me. I can never thank you enough. Don't worry about it, said Jack. He didn't want Morgan to know how scared he had been. Yeah, no problem, said Annie. Morgan smiled. You're amazing, Master Librarian, she said. Do you think you're up to rescuing another ancient story? Yes, said Annie. Now, said Jack. Actually, he was a little tired now. Morgan left. No, take a nice vacation and come back 2 weeks from today. Then you will take a trip to ancient China, she said. Ancient China? Wow, said Annie. Oh, man. Said Jack. Go home now and rest, said Morgan. She handed Jack his pack. Thanks, he said. Bye. Bye. Morgan gave them a little wave. Then Annie and Jack left the treehouse and headed down the rope ladder. When they reached the ground, Jack looked up. Morgan, he called. What is that story about? The one we just rescued. It's called The Strongest Man in the World, said Morgan. It's a lost tale about Hercules. Hercules, said Jack. Yeah, he was one of the heroes of the Greeks and the Romans, said Morgan. He was a son of Jupiter. Oh, wow, now I get it. I'm taking it back now to Camelot's library, said Morgan. Everyone will be so excited to read it thanks to you. She waved to them. Goodbye for now. As she waved, the wind began to whirl. The treehouse began to spin. In a blur of shadow and light, Morgan and the magic treehouse were gone. Jack and Annie started walking through the woods. Get it? Get it? Said Annie, get what? Said Jack. We were saved by Hercules, said Annie. We asked the story to save us, and Hercules appeared. That's not possible. It was just some gladiator guy. Story of Hercules is a myth. The men never really lived. They left the woods and started up their street. I know it's a myth, but I have a simple explanation. What? Said Jack. Hercules is a myth to people in this time, said Annie. But in Roman time, lots of people believed he was real. So since we were in Roman time, he was real to us. I don't know. Did you ever hear the saying, said Annie? When in Rome, do as the Romans do. Jack laughed. Yeah, he looked up at the sky. Thanks, Hercules, he said softly. Whatever you are, Jack, Annie. The dad called from the front porch. Time to go. Oh, brother, I forgot it. I forgot, said Jack. Yeah, I hope nothing exciting happens on our vacation, said Annie. Yeah, said Jack. I hope it's really, really boring. Hurry, they said. Coming, they called. Then they took off running for home. And a restful vacation. The end.